How's it going, everybody? Today I'm super excited to finally introduce you to the brand new cages from XLCS Designs for the Pyxis 6K camera from Blackmagic Design. Now, I've been working on this for quite a while. Really excited to be bringing these out to market. The camera is about to start shipping, so it's time to start gearing up for this guy. And I think you'll find there's a lot of really great things to love about this specific cage design. It's a fairly unique design. Other companies on the market are bringing out top plates, bottom plates, and side plates. This is a full single-piece cage design, all-encompassing, to protect the camera and also provide you with a lot more mounting points for rigging this up exactly as you want. Now, one of the first things you'll note about these cages is the plethora of mounting points. There's over 300 threaded holes on these cages. Now, some might say that's overkill. There's no way you're ever going to use that many mounting points on a cage. The point isn't that you're going to need to mount everything everywhere on this all at once. It's more about having the options and the flexibility to put whatever you need to mount to this wherever you might need it. Now, when you're rigging this out, depending on where you've got it rigged, how you've got it rigged, you sometimes find that you just need maybe half an inch of movement top down, side to side to get the accessory into place that you need on this. By adding so many points on here, you should find that you never have to forfeit your build for lack of space. Now, as you can likely see, there are two different designs made for this. The one with the faceplate on it is the full metal jacket. This is for the L-mount only camera version of the Pyxis, whereas the hollow point here with no faceplate will work for the L-mount, the EF mount, and the PL mount. Again, they are one solid piece of aluminum. However, they are much lighter than you might guess. The full metal jacket is sitting right about 670 grams or 1.7 pounds, and the hollow point is coming in at about 600 grams or about 1.5 pounds. Now, the major difference between the two is that with the faceplate in place, there are different options for adapter lock support. Since the L mount will likely be taking a lot of different adapters for you, you want to be able to lock those into place. It's less likely if you're using the EF and PL mount that you'll ever use an adapter. So there is still an option for using the universal adapter lock for the L mount with the hollow point. However, the placement options for it are limited to just one, whereas this gives you two different placement options for that universal foot. In case you are using an adapter that has a much shorter foot and you need a little bit of extra reach, you can lift the adapter and add a ½ inch of space. That's not possible here on the HP. And along with that, most of these adapters, like the MC31, MC21 adapters from Sigma, the Viltrox, some of the Metabones, these feet are actually removable. And when they're removed, it would allow you to use a much more lower profile adapter lock that we've developed for locking these adapters to the cages, leaving this area sort of free from having to have that larger, slightly bulkier universal lock in place. So that's something really cool about the full metal jacket design. If you know you are just going to be using an L-mount camera in your workflow, you don't plan on ever renting or owning any other versions, I highly recommend getting the L-mount specific full metal jacket cage for the L-mount camera. As you can see, when this is mounted in, it gives you that added faceplate protection. It sits flush with the lens mount area, and with the USB-C port, you're able to use the XLCS Designs USB-C lock with this. And as you can see, there's no worry about this coming loose, causing any damage to that port. Now, this was designed specifically to allow you to still use the Blackmagic proprietary EVF cable for the front and still give you the needed clearance necessary for this cable to pass over to the EVF. Now, beyond that, the two cages are identical, and the accessories that work with them are also identical. We have 6-inch rods that will mount directly to the face of the camera here. We've got 1/4 holes here in the front with some RE spacing pins next to it. These will go right into place. When you purchase these, they will include the option to get a longer tool here for reaching those screws inside. And extremely easy, they just spin right into place. Lock it down. These are also precisely 60 millimeters in spacing so that you can use your follow focuses, you can use lens supports that require standard 15 millimeter spacing without needing to add anything else to the bottom of your camera to get these rods in place. And they're in there securely. They will not twist out of placement thanks to the RE spacing pins. There's another set of holes on the top of the cage, also 60 millimeters apart if you want to mount the rails to the top for a focus motor or for any other accessory you want to put onto the top of the camera along with the ones on the bottom. There's also additional holes here, 3/8-inch holes with RE spacing pins a little bit further out. If you want to get a little bit more spacing away from your lens for accessories, you can simply throw in a 1/4 step down for these holes, or if your rod accessory you're planning to add has a 3/8-inch hole, those will go into place right there simply and easily. The back, as you can see right now, is left open. There is a optional backplate that we'll get to in a minute that goes into place here. You can see the 4 M3 holes around the sides here to mount that into place, but you'll also see right here a 1/4 hole with an RE spacing pin next to it. And what this is for is that you can take these rods that we've made and mount directly to the cage itself here in the back. Now with these in place, they are also 60 millimeters apart. If you're planning to power this externally, you can now mount your V-mount or AB mount plate directly to the back of this camera without having to add anything else to the base or top of this to get that mounted. LEMO pin simply bolts into the back and you're ready to go. Very simple, very basic, non-proprietary way for getting this external power into your camera. If you've already got a V-mount plate or you're planning on buying one, you've got ones for other systems, you're going to be able to use it with this. Now on the camera system side of the cage, you can see there is a native built-in NATO rail. There is a rosette that comes mounted into the cage, whether you're using a side handle that slides onto a NATO or uses a rosette to mount. Both are options natively built into this cage. Along with that, a few 3/8 threaded holes with the RE spacing pins, one on the bottom, one on the top, and one in the middle. And then here along the middle of the camera, we've got another set of those for mounting whatever accessories you want, or if you want to scoot your handle even further back here. You'll see a cold shoe on the side for mounting a mic pack, potentially, or whatever you might want to throw a accessory into a cold shoe for. We've got another cold shoe here on the front at the slant for putting a shotgun mic or a rangefinder for a follow focus or whatever you might need. Another neat feature that's been added here on the assistant side, you can see the focal plane mark is still present on the cage, so you'll be able to identify that easily enough. But furthermore, we've added a threaded hole right on that line so that if you're running soft tape on set, you can simply thread in an M4 screw and you've got an anchor point for you to loop your soft tape onto here to run it out so that a second person or an operator does not need to hold that tape for you while you run the tape out to get your focal marks. With that, we've also got, if you're using hard tape, an added notch in there for you to put the actual hooking arm of the hard tape into that slot to again be able to run tape out without the need of somebody necessarily holding that tape in place, and it's in line with the sensor plane of your camera. Moving on to the top, something that was very important in the design of this that we tried to implement was to try and match the footprint of the actual camera body itself in terms of the mounting point. So you'll see that all the holes that are in place here are present on the body below the cage itself, even some of the grooves and cutouts. The point of this being that, one, we don't know what Blackmagic's going to do in the future with this camera. They may bring out other proprietary accessories for it that are meant to mount directly to the body of the camera itself, and we don't want you to lose the ability to make use of those accessories just because you're inside of a cage. For example, the EVF that's coming out for this camera, it mounts directly to the top handle. Yes, there's probably going to be other ways to mount that EVF. However, if you do want to make use of that with the top handle, it's very important that that top handle is still able to mount to the cage itself. So we've done this with the top, bottom, and side, making sure we're still mimicking the native hole placement of the camera itself. Now, along with that, we've added even more holes here, as you can see, a 3/8 inch with RE spacing pins towards the front for putting a monitor mount or another top handle. Plenty of space for you to add a NATO rail onto the top if that's what you want to do. We've got cutouts here above the vents, cut out partially for getting rid of some weight here, but also elongated vents so that this thing can breathe and keep cool. And of course, on all different angles, we've got more of these 3/8 holes with RE spacing pins. On this side, another cold shoe for, again, mounting a shotgun. Bottom, same sort of thing. You can see a lot of cutout space here to cut our weight, but also to help keep this camera cool and ventilated. More elongated slots to help with that airflow. More points matching the underside of the camera for mounting this to Blackmagic accessories. A center line to make sure that you're able to keep this centered on your tripod or your gimbal, with a multitude of different 1/4 holes and 3/8 holes with RE spacing pins. In case you're having to fly this upside down, you're still able to mount top handles and monitors and whatnot here onto the bottom. Now on the operator's side, we've got another built-in NATO rail here, again with some 3/8 holes here if you're wanting to add side handles or if you're shooting vertically, another top handle here. And what's really exciting is we've put in an extra groove here around the screen itself. So we've got some border here to help protect the screen from basic impact. It's recessed in there. However, we went ahead and designed a few additional LCD protective accessories for this. Now this is injection molded out of ABS plus PC polycarbonate plastic, which means it'll have a lot more structural integrity. It'll be a lot more flexible. Essentially, these slide right into place into this slot and it protects your screen. There is a solid version that's available. There is a transparent version that's available, and there's also a screen hood to protect this from sun glare. You have to kind of put some pressure to pull it out. However, if you want some added security, there are 2 holes here that line up with threaded holes beneath, so you can run in some screws and fully lock this into place. There's also a transparent version that will slide right into place so that you can still view your screen, view your menu options, and keep that screen protected. What's really cool about the Pyxis is you can lock the touch screen off with this switch here, and you then use this navigation dial on the side and some of the buttons here to change your settings. And then of course lastly, the sun hood that also slides right into place, tilted slightly up so that the camera system doesn't have to duck his head too much to see it. However, it still provides enough shading to keep the sun glare off of your screen. This can also be locked into place, but once more, the friction of these generally keep them in place well enough during the use. And once more, these will be injection molded out of high quality plastic and polycarbonate materials. Now, as I mentioned, we've got a backplate accessory. As you can see, it adds a lot more mounting points directly to the back. I've been in a lot of situations where I wish I could mount stuff to the back of my camera, whether it's SSD holders, tentacle sinks, or if you're hanging this upside down on a jib to try and get a nice overhead shot, being able to mount stuff directly to the back of the camera I think is very important, so it's something we added as an option to this cage. Now this simply goes into place using the included M3 screws. And something you might want to focus on when you're putting this into place, it has a little bit of up and down play depending on how much you've tightened either the top or bottom of your camera. The Pyxis has rubber feet, it could depress down a little bit. So you've got the option to sort of make sure that this is centered properly with your SDI ports here so that you can put your SDI cable into place without any interference with this back plate. So simply eyeball it, make sure that they're centered. You've got access here to your CFast cards, a little bit of bumper protection here for your SDI ports from side impact. The SDI cable will clear here. You've got plenty of room here for your LEMO cable. And just so we're aware, there's a little bit of extra cutout here on the bottom so you can use a right angle LEMO cable with the back plate in place and still have clearance there for that to protrude out. There's also plenty of room and a little bit of bumper protection here for your USB-C cable. You can either lock it in using a locking cable, which we provide or Blackmagic provides, or if you're using a proprietary cable that belongs to a specific SSD that you want to use because you feel it has better performance, you are also able to use the XLCS Designs cable lock system, the best cable locking system you can have. Now you'll also see here there are quarter holes with the RE spacing pins on both the top and the bottom, again for using the 15mm rods that mount directly to the back for adding that V-mount plate option. And with the back plate, you're also able to mount those to the top in case, again, you're running the camera upside down or you want to add those accessories inverted. Along with that, we've got 3/8 holes here on the top and bottom with RE spacing pins. A lot of times on other systems, you'll see those sort of very long top handles that curve back around. This is a means for you to use your existing top handle that you've got for that same purpose of giving you sort of a back-placed grip. This is especially nice if you're using an easy rig and it's being hung and you want a little bit better way to angle your camera. There's one on the bottom as well in case you want to put it from the bottom side. Lastly, with the back, if you've opted not to use a BPU and you see you've got a lot of extra real estate here, we can add this filler plate that's included with the back plate, and we'll add a lot more quarter holes as well as a cold shoe and another 3/8 with RE pins. Something that's really cool about the cold shoe here is that, again, if you're using wireless mic packs or tentacle sinks, you can fit it right to the back of the cage now, giving you a little bit more freedom for your sides. And then lastly, another, like I said, 3/8 hole here if you wanted to put your handle a little bit more centered, or if some of your accessories, again, are using 3/8 holes and you want something a little bit more placed in the center. Now with that, we've got a few other accessories that are available for this. SSD holder made specifically for the T7 and T9 SSD. Will hold it great to keep a very low profile that will mount pretty much anywhere onto this cage if you're shooting with SSD and that's the way you want to go. We've got this. This is a locking L-mount body cap machined out of aluminum. This one is red, sort of evokes the red record button. What's unique about this is that it has 4 locking pins all around it, so it will lock onto the camera much like the lens itself does. A lot of plastic caps that come with these, they don't lock into place. They just kind of sit there. If they get bumped or they're not put on all the way, they could easily fall off during transit and expose that sensor to the elements. This will lock firmly into place, and it will not remove unless the lens release button is depressed and this is turned out of the way. I'm super excited about these cages. Very happy to bring in these to market. Pre-sales begin now, and it should coincide fairly nicely with the actual release of the Pyxis itself. If you have any questions about this cage system or other cage systems that we've designed, please feel free to leave them in the comments below or contact me through XLCSdesigns.com. And with that, be sure to like, share, and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.